All right, in this video, we're going to go over the Module 4 study guide to prepare for the Module 4 district test, just like we did today in class. So in this first question, Sarah wants to make a snack when she gets home from school. She decides to warm up some chicken fingers in the microwave. The instructions on the package say to cook one chicken finger, you need to cook it for 4 minutes. For each additional chicken, you need to add an additional 1.5 minutes to the cook time. Which equation can be used to determine the total time y to cook the x number of chicken fingers? Well, this 4 here is my y-intercept. This here 1.5 is my slope. So my equation would be 1 equals 1.5x plus 4. And I also want to make a special note that that should say additional chicken fingers, because when we cook one chicken finger, that's our initial point. So if we're cooking additional chicken fingers, this is the equation we would use. All right, pretty easy. We're going to move on to question number 2. So students recorded the amount of hours they studied per week and their GPA. The table shows their GPA Y and time studying per week X. So they've provided this table for us. That's awesome, but that's just a collection of data that really is kind of useless to us. We're going to go ahead and cross that out because it's just there to distract you. Really what we care about is this right here, our equation. So it says that the situation can be modeled by the equation y equals 0.2x plus 2.2. Well, they've given us the equation for our line of fit, and they've given it to us in slope-intercept form. So now that we have that, we're going to use that m as our slope, because we know that m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So if we're looking for our y-intercept or slope, we can identify that directly from this equation. So which statement best interprets the y-intercept of the equation? Well, here our y-intercept is 2.2. So we're going to look for our answer choices that include 2.2. So we have B and C. Well, B says the average GPA of a student with 0 hours studying would be 2.2. Well, yes, because 0 hours would be our x, and our y-intercept is always when x is equal to 0. So B would be our best choice. If you look at C, that also mentions 2.2. C says the average GPA of a student decreases by 2.2. Well, if you look at this equation, nothing is decreasing. We have a positive slope and a positive y-intercept, so we shouldn't have any values decreasing. And option D just isn't logical, because if we have 0 hours, where did we get the 3.7? All right, moving on to B. Part B, which statement best interprets the slope of this equation in the context? Well, slope here is our m, our y-intercept, our m 0.2, and the answer choices that include 0.2 or a change in 0.2 is actually A. The average GPA of a student increases by 0.2 points for every hour they spend studying. So here, our best choice is A. Now, in part C, we are going to continue to use that same model and estimate the GPA of a student who studies 6.5 hours per week. Well, the 6.5 hours, remember, is telling us that the time studying is their x value. So I've highlighted that in yellow for our x value, and we're just going to plug that into our equation that we have. So y is equal to 0.2 times 6.5 plus 2. And once I simplify that, I get y is equal to 1.3 plus 2.2. And so y is equal to 3.5. So the answer I would input is 3.5. Now, a student did point out, well, this didn't match the table because they had to study so many hours to get a 3.5. But again, we can't use the table. We're ignoring the table. We're just plugging in the values that we've been given, and we're making an estimation. So I hope that helps you on these questions, same style questions on the test. Now on question 3, which equation would best fit the data displayed in the scatter plot below? So the first thing I'm going to do is sketch my line. Once I sketch my line, I'm going to select 2 points that fall on the line to find my slope. So I've selected the point 215 and 530. And once I use those 2 points to find my slope, I notice that my slope is 5. So if I'm looking for a slope of 5, I look at my answer choices and I see that A is the only one that has a slope of 5. Does my y-intercept match? It sure does, because my intervals are going up in 5s here on my y-axis. So that's an intercept of 5 and a slope of 5. Going over here to number 4, I can look at this data and it's asking me, is the correlation of this data can be described as weak or strong, positive or negative? Well, this is a strong relationship, a strong correlation, and it's a negative correlation. Sorry, move a little fast. And moving on to question 5, which equation would represent the line parallel to a line represented by y is equal to 1/3 x minus 5 and passes through the point 6, 8? Again, we were given an equation in slope-intercept form, so we can easily identify our slope here of our provided line, which is 1/3. And if my line needs to be parallel to that line, then it's going to be the same. So my new slope will also be 1/3, and it's going to pass through the point 6 and 8. So x is equal to 6, and y will be equal to 8. And then I can plug that into my slope-intercept formula or slope-intercept equation to find my b value. So now that we've plugged in all of our values and we need to solve for b. So 1/3 of 6 is 2. Then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and 6 is equal to b. So now that I have both my y-intercept and my slope, I can write my equation. Y is equal to 1/3 x plus 6. In question 6, they've given us a line and they want us to find the slope of a line that would be perpendicular. So first we're going to find the slope of the given line. So we went up 1, 2, and 3, and we went over 1. So our slope is 3 over 1, which would simplify to 3, but we can just leave it as 3 over 1 because we're looking for a perpendicular slope. And remember, a perpendicular slope is the opposite reciprocal. So if it's positive here, it's going to become negative. And if it's 3 over 1, it will become 1 over 3. And again, that is because it's the opposite reciprocal. So parallel slopes are the same. Perpendicular slopes are the opposite reciprocal. All right, last two questions. Question 7, a linear equation is modeled on the graph below. So here they've given us 3 points to choose from. We can choose any 2 of those 3 points to find our slope. So I use the points -1, 5 and 0, 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. -1 minus 0 is -1. So I found my slope to be -2. Once I find my slope of -2, I'm going to look at my answer choices and see which ones I can eliminate. All right, now I'm down to a 50-50 shot of getting the answer correct. So I'm going to plug it into my point slope form. And I'm going to use the point -1, 5. And I know which point to use because if I look at my point slope form, I've noticed they've used the 5 and the 1 in all of my examples or all of my answer choices. So again, the point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So when I plug in my +5, I'm going to write it here. And when I plug in my -1, I'm going to be careful because now I see there's a double negative. And when I see a double negative, I know that's going to become a positive. So now I have y minus 5 is equal to -2 multiplied by x plus 1. So my answer here would be A. All right, moving on to our last question. Write the equation of the line passing through the points -1, 3 and -4, 4, and we're going to write this in point slope form. So the first thing we need to do is find our slope. So 4 minus 3 over -4 minus a -1. Again, here we have that double negative again. So -4 plus 1 will actually become -3. And so my slope is a -1/3. Again, now that I've found my slope, I'm going to eliminate any possible wrong answers. So I notice that A and B both have the correct slope, so I can eliminate C and D. And now I'm going to plug in -1, 3 into my point slope form. And I've chosen -1, 3 just because I noticed that here they have both options, so I'm going to use the first option or first point first. And so when I do that, I get y minus 3, because this is my y value, I'm going to plug it in 3, is equal to -1/3 multiplied by x minus a -1. Again, I have a -1 and I'm subtracting a -1, so that's going to simplify to x plus 1 and just y minus 3. So that matches my option B, and so that will be my correct answer. All I want to say is don't be tricked by the double negatives. Don't forget that when you subtract a negative, it becomes a positive. All right, that's it. I hope this helps you prepare for the test, and I'll see you tomorrow.